All right, for everyone, hi, I'm Delaney. Thanks for coming today. Today, we're joined by Tiffany Mann with AgeWell. We will be talking about the 10 employer best practices for creating a caregiver-friendly workplace. So just some few quick housekeeping reminders. Please keep yourself muted while Tiffany is speaking. And if you'd like to unmute, just please use the raise hand function with Zoom. And also feel free to use the chat, any questions, or if you have an answer to anything, if Tiffany asks us some stuff, feel free to use that to engage. And also, this webinar is going to be recorded and then will be shared again after the event for you all and anyone who missed it. All right, so attending today earns credits as usual. So this program has been granted 1 hour of general HRCI recertification credit, and it has also been granted 1 hour for general HRCI recertification credit. All right, first our upcoming events. We, of course, have our MT Sherm Benefits Compensation Summit coming up on Thursday, May 7th, so next week. And that'll be from 8 to 4 with a happy hour from 4 to 6. And it's at the Hilton Franklin Cool Springs, and you don't want to miss it. We have a lot of great speakers, and we're really looking forward to it. Up next, before that, we have our virtual leadership and development program informational session, and this one will be on Zoom before our benefits compensation summit just a few days later. So be sure to check those out, and those are again on our website for registration. And last but not least, before we introduce Tiffany, let's stay connected on social media. You can find us on LinkedIn if you search up MT Sherm and also Facebook as well. But now I will go ahead and hand it over to Tiffany. Let's see if I can stop sharing.
All right, Delaney, thank you. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Give me just a second to pull up my notes. Okay, let me go back a slide. There we go. All right. Thank you, Delaney. Thank you, MT Sherm, for having me today. I'm really excited to be with you all. Today, we're going to talk about 10 employer best practices for creating a caregiver-friendly workplace. I'm Tiffany Mann, and I am the Eldercare Coach and Community Partnerships Manager with AgeWell Middle Tennessee. AgeWell is celebrating over 40 years of serving as a trusted resource, advancing solutions to meet the critical needs of older adults and caregivers. Just a bit about me. I have over 15 years experience in the caregiver support field, as well as supporting those affected by Alzheimer's and dementia. I'm really excited to share with you today information, resources, and helpful tips on how you can help support those who are working and juggling caregiving in your workplace. So, this is a favorite quote of mine by Rosalind Carter, and she says, "There are only four kinds of people in this world: those who have been caregivers, those who currently are caregivers, those who will be caregivers, and those who will need caregivers." And as we can see, we will all be touched in some way by caregiving, and it's all of our jobs to fill the gaps where we can in supporting caregivers. Before we go further, please add to the chat how you have been affected by caregiving. You can pick the role that you most identify with today by adding the bolded words to the chat. So, have been, currently are, will be, and will need. And thank you for sharing. You guys can take a look at those as we go. Okay, so what are we going to discuss today? Well, our topic again is 10 employer best practices for creating that caregiver-friendly workplace. And I'm hoping after today that you will be able to recognize who today's working caregivers are and what they are juggling, that you'll understand the challenges caregivers face in caring for someone with Alzheimer's and dementia, that you will learn best practices and benefits needed for a caregiver-friendly workplace, and that you will identify supportive resources in the community, both for older adults and their families. My goal is to really help you care for your caregiving employees, and in doing so, see how it can also help your bottom line. Okay, a little bit about Age Well. We started in 1985. We started as the Council on Aging of Greater Nashville, and we actually started out of an identified need out of the mayor's office at that time to really have a resource here locally to serve older adults and caregivers and connecting them with resources. We actually serve 13 counties, and you can see, and those 13 counties are really Davidson and contiguous counties. And you can see on the screen our three key roles are number one, to be a trusted and impartial community resource, to be a catalyst for solutions to unmet needs, and to be a champion and advocate. I want to touch briefly on, you can see on the screen, all of our resources and programs. I am going to talk about many of these as we go throughout the presentation, but a few I want to point out. Our helpline is our main phone number. I want you to know that any older adult or caregiver, even professional serving those groups, can call our main number if you're in need of a resource, if you're in need of information. We also have 3 guidebooks you can see listed on your screen. These are books that we put together with subject matter experts and caregivers. You can read these on our website in PDF form, but I do want to point out the topics. There's one on aging and caring. There's one on empowering grandparents. This is for grandparents raising grandchildren. And there's also one called preparing and planning for end of life. We do send out a monthly newsletter. We also send out a monthly email that we call our scam of the month. I want you to know about that because it can be really helpful and educational for older adults and caregivers to be aware of scams to be on the lookout for. So you can sign up for that on our website. And the last program that I'll mention is the last one listed, Reset. This is a newer program at AgeWell, but the goal of it is to help older adults connect with financial resources that they may qualify for that they aren't currently getting. So as you can see, a variety of resources and programs all geared towards older adults and caregivers. Okay, so here we go. We're going to get into a little bit about who are caregivers and who are they caregiving for. We continue to hear more about the need for elder care and our larger aging population. We know that 11,000 older adults turn 65 every day through 2030. This is, of course, the U.S. baby boom that describes the dramatic increase in births following World War II. So between the years of 1946 and 1964, 76 million baby boomers were born. The U.S. Census Bureau actually reports in 2034, so not too far away, older adults are expected to outnumber children under the age of 18 for the first time in the history of the United States. Currently, here in Tennessee, we have 1.6 million who are 60 and older. We know with age comes more chronic disease and health needs that we may need help managing. So elder care is really everywhere, and we will continue to see the increase in a need to care for our older adults. Okay, what do we mean by caregiving? So we know we have this larger aging population. Who are caregivers? So really a caregiver is anyone giving of themselves physically, emotionally, or financially. And you can see that general definition at the top of your screen. I do want you to know that there are different types of caregivers. All of them need support. You can see the 3 types listed in that second bullet point. So a primary caregiver might mean I'm caring for my loved one day in and day out. Maybe they live with me or just I'm seeing them regularly. A secondary caregiver might mean my loved one lives down the street in the assisted living, but I'm still their advocate. I'm still providing emotional support. I'm most likely still taking them to doctor's appointments. A long distance caregiver, this might be me one day. My parents both live in Kentucky, so several hours away. A long distance caregiver is still a caregiver. They might be providing emotional support. They might be their loved one's advocate. From behind the scenes, they may be managing their loved one's budget or making doctor's appointments on their behalf. They might also be sending money home to supplement their loved one's care. So you can see there's all different types of caregivers. And what we know is that if someone doesn't identify as a caregiver, they won't seek out support. Unfortunately, some caregivers don't identify until it's too late and burnout occurs. They may think they are just being a good daughter or I'm just taking dad to doctor's appointments. But what they don't realize is that as their loved one ages, their needs will most likely increase. And so, from an employer standpoint, you all can really help your employees identify if they are in fact a caregiver, and then of course point them to resources, support, and education. One thing I will say too is assume your numbers are higher. We're going to talk about this, but do caregivers in your workplace feel comfortable talking about caregiving? So more than likely, probably not. So assume your numbers are higher. And we're going to go on to our last bullet point on this slide, a little bit of trivia for you. And you can see, I'll back at that second to last bullet point, all of those things are tasks that caregivers are doing. So some caregivers might be doing one or two of those things, but all of those things would be something that a caregiver might be responsible for. So on to our next slide. I want you to think about who do you think the average caregiver is today? So I want you to think about gender and age and how many hours a week do you think they are providing care? So who's the average caregiver based on gender and age, and how many hours a week are they providing care to their loved one each week? When we look deeper, we see why caregiving employees might struggle with a work-life balance. The typical age and gender of a caregiver today is 49 years old and female, working a paid job and helping with parents and or in-laws, possibly their parents or possibly in-laws. They're sandwiched between dependent children. So that's where that sandwich generation term comes in. They're sandwiched between dependent children and now caring for their parents or possibly in-laws. You can see those bubbles across the screen. On average, a caregiver is spending 24 hours a week helping with tasks like bathing, dressing, shopping, transportation. You can see though that time varies, and some 25% of caregivers are spending 40 plus hours a week providing care to their loved one, which obviously can lead to high stress and burnout. That last bubble, 6 and 10, are helping most likely with tasks they weren't really prepared for, things like giving medications, giving injections. The last caregiving in the US report back in 2025 said that there were approximately 59 million across the United States, 59 million caregivers to older adults. And when we think about that, that's really 59 million stories, all kinds of stories of how caregivers are juggling possibly children and jobs and also trying to care for their loved ones. A little more on who our caregivers are today. You can see the gender breakdown in the first two squares. And on the right of your screen, you see you see who caregivers are by age cohort. And what's interesting is that not only might baby boomers need care, but they also, as you can see, are the largest aging population for caregivers. In the bottom two squares, you can see that definitely over half, 61% of caregivers are also working. And then in that last square, 45% over to the left have had at least one financial impact due to caregiving. And you might think about, well, what could that be? That could be, of course, today there are more long distance caregivers. So it might be I'm flying or driving home to care for my loved one. I'm staying in a hotel. Possibly I've had to cut back on my hours at work, and maybe I've had to quit my job due to caregiving. Caregivers, like I said, do essentially make up our largest workforce in the US, and they actually give about 49.5 billion hours of care to their loved one, which totals $1 trillion. So lots of time, lots of money that could translate into. Another thing I want you to think about is these working caregivers are really coming to your job also with all of the skills that they're learning as being a caregiver. They're multitasking, they're planning ahead, they're problem solving. So this image really, I think, depicts what caregivers are juggling. I'm going to read a little vignette to you that's on caregiver.org, but you can see the tasks on the screen are things that we all either have to do or want to do, but it's important to recognize that all of these things mean something to caregivers. They might mean something about their quality of life or what keeps them healthy. And so this little vignette says, last week, Arlene missed 2 days of work when she felt uncomfortable leaving her elderly mother home alone. Recently diagnosed with dementia, her condition makes Arlene fear that she will wander off or accidentally hurt herself or damage her home while trying to complete a task as seemingly simple as making lunch. This week, Arlene's desk is overflowing with paperwork and deadlines. Her mother has a midweek appointment with her doctor, and Arlene's children are expecting her on the sidelines at two soccer games. The tasks related to work, family, and caregiving are piling up. Arlene is beginning to feel like she has one too many balls in the air. And I just think that's such a really good depiction of what many caregivers are juggling. Caregivers are dealing with caregiver stress and the negative impact of that stress, both emotionally and physically. This is a list on your screen from the Alzheimer's Association. These are 10 ways to identify caregiver stress. And what I want to say about this is just that these are all normal feelings and emotions. They're all normal to have as a caregiver. When do they become not normal? When do they become a warning sign that a caregiver needs help? Well, if the caregiver is having trouble providing the care to their loved one because these emotions or feelings have really started to take their toll on them, that is really a time where they, and if not beforehand, during, that's a time that they need to reach out for support. A couple of these I want to point out, you most likely understand and know what all of these emotions and feelings mean, but a couple that stand out to me, I just want to mention that, anger is a very normal feeling to feel as a caregiver. Sometimes we are angry about the position that we've been put in. Maybe it's not what we expected for our future. And the other one I want to point out, and this is something to really think about as an employer, is that caregivers, as they become overwhelmed and stressed, they can have more health issues than non-caregivers. They might be sick more often. They may be in worse health. They may have lower levels of self-care. And that may mean that they don't have time to go to their own doctor's appointments or exercise or cook a healthy meal. And unfortunately, we know that caregivers can decline quicker than their loved one. We're not going to spend a lot of time on this slide, but I did want to point out, we've talked about who might need care. We talked about who caregivers are. It's also important to just touch on what caregivers, what disease their loved ones might have that they're helping caregive for. We know that over half of caregivers are caregiving for someone with a type of dementia like Alzheimer's disease. And you can see some of the statistics on your screen. The other thing to point out is that age is the largest risk factor for Alzheimer's. So again, with our larger baby boomer population, more people aging, we are going to continue to hear, and more than likely, if I asked you right now, you know someone, whether it's someone in your own circle or someone that you work with that's been affected by Alzheimer's or another type of dementia. You can see, just to point out those first two, over 7 million Americans 65 and older have Alzheimer's disease, and that kind of boils down to 1 in 9 people age 65 and older. And we do again see more women affected with Alzheimer's because of that larger aging factor. Women tend to live longer, which makes us more at risk. But we also, I want to point out, see more women caregiving for people with a type of dementia. A couple of things related to dementia that I think will help paint the picture of how your employees who might be caregiving for someone with dementia might be affected and have an added level of stress. So, in terms of safety, safety is something caregivers continually have to monitor. They're thinking about, is my loved one safe alone, at home, with driving? Could they wander off? Working caregivers may be concerned that their loved one is not safe while they are at work, and that can obviously be very distracting. In terms of communication, people with dementia have trouble understanding what their caregiver is saying, and they might have trouble telling their caregiver what they need and want. And this is kind of as the disease progresses, but caregivers may have to get creative with how they communicate with their loved one. Communication takes longer and may not be as effective over the phone. So, thinking about a caregiver trying to call their loved one. The person with dementia may need someone with them at every doctor's appointment because of this. In terms of behaviors, we know that every behavior with dementia has a purpose. It is actually a form of communication. That person's trying to tell their caregiver what they need or want. And unfortunately, sometimes a person with dementia's behaviors make it difficult to find care. So again, being aware that your employees, if their loved one's experiencing agitation or possibly aggression because of dementia, it is very hard sometimes to find providers who can step in and help. And then the last one, we know that with the challenges of dementia comes caregiver stress. And really, honestly, the caregiver is the most important person in this relationship. If the caregiver isn't well, they can't provide the care they want to their loved one. Caregivers may find it very difficult to take care of themselves while also working and caregiving. And all of these things make caregiving harder and even more stressful if you're also managing a job. So again, just trying to paint a picture for what caregivers might be dealing with. And on this screen, you can kind of see everything we've talked about so far summed up, that caregiving has its challenges, it has its concerns. The healthcare and long-term care system is very hard to navigate. It's hard to navigate sometimes even for myself, and this is the job I do. So imagine what it's like to navigate for someone who has no experience and who's also managing other things like their job and their kids' activities. Care, unfortunately, for people, older adults, is cost prohibitive, meaning it's very expensive. Most people, most caregivers, most older adults cannot pay for the care that is needed. It's very expensive. And this is a good reason why caregivers need someone to help guide them in this journey. There are resources in our community that can help financially, but most people don't know about them. Caring for someone with Alzheimer's or related dementia, as I mentioned, is challenging. There's an added layer to that caregiver's plate. But we know that working is necessary. We need money. We need to be able to have a salary. We need health insurance. And you're going to see many caregivers, especially caregivers, sometimes in this referencing this bullet point, those caregivers who might be caring for a spouse, they may be carrying the insurance. They have to work. They have to have a salary. And as we get into talking about caregiving at work, many people do not feel comfortable telling their manager about their caregiving concerns and needs. And so, as the picture shows on the screen, it's no wonder that employees feel overburdened and overwhelmed. So, now we're going to get to the real topic at hand, and we're going to look at how caregiving affects the employee and the employer and who your caregiving employees might be. And we're going to get to the 10 best practices. So who's caregiving at your job? How do you know which employees also are caregiving for an aging loved one? Well, a little hint, they probably aren't wearing red capes to work, and they're not typically going to raise their hands for help. It's common for employees to care for others in their family without mentioning to their managers. As well, they may rarely reach out for help. And as I mentioned, sometimes they don't even consider themselves in the caregiving category. They don't want to be seen as unreliable or unavailable if a career opportunity presents itself, but they worry constantly about losing their job due to caregiving responsibilities interfering with workplace responsibilities, which of course causes a lot of undue stress. So what happens from here is it ends up taking a toll on them and their job, costing the company an absenteeism, lack of presenteeism, and perhaps losing a great employee. And then the attract, as you all probably know much better than me, the attract to retain cycle begins. So before you can address the needs of your employee population that are family caregivers, you first want to identify who they are. And this is big. Create a culture where they feel safe to talk about their family caregiving. You can see on the screen the strain that caregiving can take on the employee in the workplace. Caregivers feel the strain of working and caregiving and difficulty balancing their job and caregiving duties. You can see the impacts on the screen, and they are substantial, so much so that roughly 1 in 3 caregivers have had to leave work because of caregiving. So, how are employees, let me get my three items up there. There we go. How are employers affected by these things if the employee is a caregiver? So, I promise you, we're getting ready to jump into these best practices, but let's look at these three items on the screen and we're going to look at them from a little bit from the employee perspective. So, in terms of attracting talent, employees are asking themselves, does this job have benefits that will help a working caregiver? Does the company have a culture of care? And I'm sure you know this, but a culture of care in the workplace means fostering an environment where employees feel valued, supported, and respected, which leads to increased engagement, retention, and overall well being. It goes beyond basic policies and emphasizes genuine concern for the employee's physical and emotional well being. So, does the employer value a work life balance and whole person care? The second item, in terms of retaining talent, does my job value me as an employee? Can I talk to my manager if I need to explore flexibility or job sharing? I want to work, but I'm not sure how I can juggle all of this. Who can I talk to? Caregiving pressures push many employees to quit jobs, retire early, and turn down promotions. A little bit of research, replacing an employee, as you may know already, typically costs 20% to 200% of their annual salary, depending on the role. And then lastly, productivity. And with that, we're talking about presenteeism and absenteeism. And this is from the employer standpoint. Can I focus at work? I need to find resources to help my situation and make calls, but I'm not sure when to do that. It's very overwhelming to navigate. My mom has another doctor's appointment this week, and I'm not sure I can miss work again. Caregivers really do need a navigator. Employees who are caregivers are more likely to miss work, be distracted or exhausted at work, reduce hours, or shift to less demanding roles. And the impact on the U.S. employer is that they lose an estimated 18 to 33 billion per year due to caregiving related productivity loss. Presenteeism alone is often more costly than absenteeism. As you can think about it, as I mentioned, caregivers have a lot on their mind. Is my loved one safe at home? I need to find resources. How am I going to focus at work? We all know that caregiving can increase, and this is another point. We all know that caregiving can increase healthcare and insurance costs with caregivers experiencing chronic stress, sleep deprivation, and higher rates of anxiety and depression. So now let's move on to our main topic, 10 employer best practices for creating a caregiver-friendly workplace. Here we go. Number one, learn who are caregivers at your workplace. There are several ways you can create a safe space for employees to open up. I heard this idea recently, but I love the idea of leaders sharing their caregiving story, having emotional bravery, really leading with empathy, saying, hey, I understand what it's like because I'm a caregiver too. Employers should be coming from a place of curiosity to really understand what it's like to juggle work and caregiving. And this is where a survey is a great way to learn more about your employees' needs and wants around caregiving. I wanted to mention this too. If you're really wanting to learn more on this topic, you can Google caregiving and working. I see webinars and articles regularly in the news and in employee benefits news. If you don't follow that, you should, on the topic of caregiving and working. I also listen to a podcast, if you're a podcast listener, called Working Caregivers, the Invisible Employees. Working Caregivers, the Invisible Employees. On this podcast, they focus solely on supporting working caregivers. The podcast explores questions like, how do you lead with compassion without lowering standards? And how can an organization create cultures where caregivers feel seen instead of invisible? This topic is growing in the news and reflects the needs of employees today. Number two, offer employees paid leave time. Working caregivers need to feel like they can care for their loved one, whether it's taking them to a doctor's appointment, staying home with them when they are sick, or stepping in an emergency. And I want you to think about this. Family is family, not just a child, but a parent, maybe an aunt. Sometimes it's a friend that's become family. So family is family. So assess if your current benefits are meeting the needs of care across the lifespan. Do you offer flexibility, remote work, Paid leave parity, so not just parental leave, but family leave. Also consider the idea, and I love this, of employees supporting each other by contributing to a leave bank that other employees could use. Number two, create a monthly support group. I love support groups. One of the best ways to get through the journey of caregiving is by joining a support group. Support groups help you not feel as alone and that others understand what you're going through. It gives you others to bounce ideas off of, to learn about resources, and to just feel connected. Think about starting a support group for caregivers at work, or at least an employee advisory group. I know some of you call them employee resource groups, focused on caregiving. Other ideas for helping employees connect might be a caregiving employee Slack channel or other internal ways to connect and communicate. When you invest, and this is I think an important statement, when you invest in the health of your employees, you get healthy employees ready to work. Number four, allow for a flexible schedule. We all know that COVID brought more flexibility to many jobs. Some of that has stayed and others have gone back to full office work. Caregiving employees need employees to continue asking themselves, in what ways can we continue remaining flexible? Is it flexible hours, work from home, or in some cases, job sharing? And this is from the National Institutes of Health. Remote work offers significant health benefits for employees by improving a work-life balance, reducing commuting stress, amen to Nashville traffic, and increasing autonomy. Key advantages include decreased life stress, higher job satisfaction, improved mental well-being, and greater flexibility for managing personal responsibilities. Furthermore, personalized work environments can boost focus and reduce task-related stress. This applies obviously very well to the needs of caregivers. Number five, remind employees about other benefits. This one is huge, I think. Caregiving employees need to know about and understand what current benefits can help them on their journey as a caregiver. If your employees don't know about a benefit or understand how it could help them, they are not going to use it. We see this often in the work we do with our caregiving employee benefit, Eldercare Coach. Research says that employees need to hear about a benefit 7 to 10 times to understand it and have it stick. So, do your employees understand their EAP, their Employee Assistance Program, and how it could help them? Do they understand even what it is? EAPs may connect the caregiving employee with a therapist, which could help manage their caregiver stress. If you have legal benefits, a legal benefit could help the employee put important documents in place for the person they are caring for. Communicate your benefits to employees often and in different ways through different channels. Halfway there, this is number six. This is, and this one's important to me because this is what we do with Eldercare Coach. So connect employees with guidance. Caregiving employees don't just need resources and support, they also need education and guidance. They need an expert to help them navigate the journey of caregiving. If you really want to provide your caregiving employees guidance, learn about local solutions like our program, Eldercare Coach, which I'm going to talk more about in a minute, or other tech-enabled solutions. And I want to give you an idea real quick of what questions caregivers, working caregivers, are asking our Eldercare Coach on those phone calls that we do. Caregivers are asking, what do I need to know about the diagnosis of my loved one that my loved one is living with? What do I need to know about it? What do I need to know about the progression of that diagnosis? Because we know that this will affect the caregiver and how they are needed. How do I respond to my loved one's care needs? How do I help them? Are there things I haven't thought about? More than likely, yes, there are. What resources can help? What should I do next? Number seven, adjust benefits as needed. And this isn't just about culture, it's just being flexible. So employers and becoming curious need to understand how culture plays into caring for an older adult. You may have employees who live with multiple generations in the home, and where visiting and caring for an older adult family member is more of a priority than we may consider it in the United States. Caregiving, as we know, happens across the lifespan, and it would be important for employers to consider the needs of older adult employees who might also be caring for grandchildren. To understand the needs of caregiving employees, we first again have to understand them. This is again where a survey is important to understand the needs and wants of employees. And this is again, we're becoming curious. We're wanting to learn about our employees' needs. Number 8, provide a space for caregivers at work. Creating a zen or a calm space can address the health of employees. This could be a small space, maybe an extra office that has a comfy chair in it with soft lighting, maybe calming white noise, a charger for a phone, a water cooler, privacy when needed. This could be helpful for all employees. This may seem simple, but often what we see, we're talking about our senses, what we see, hear, feel, smell, and taste can help us recenter ourselves and become more grounded in the here and now, especially if we have ongoing stress or have a stressful moment. So, this is a place that employees can recenter themselves. If they're feeling overstimulated or dysregulated, they can go to this space and find a calm atmosphere to help recenter themselves. Number 9, tailor communication to increase engagement. This one I think is also very important because I see it a lot with our benefit elder care coach. And if the word isn't gotten out enough about the benefit, employees are not going to use it. So employees should hear about benefits year round, not just during open enrollment, to truly understand and utilize them. A consistent monthly or quarterly, I might even say more often than that, strategy using diverse channels like email, meetings, and flyers keep information relevant and prevents information overload, aiding in better employee engagement. And there is that rule of 7, probably you might be aware of in the marketing world. And it suggests that people need to hear a message 7 times before they truly hear it for the first time. And I want to kind of give you an example of this with a caregiving benefit. So these are 7 questions that may come up each time a caregiver hears about it. And this is why they need to hear about it often. The first might be, what's this new benefit? The second might be, I heard about it again. Oh, am I a caregiver? The third time I hear about it, what is this again? What does this benefit offer? I heard about it before, but what's it offer? The fourth time, wait, how does this benefit work? What if I want to sign up? How does it work? The fifth time, what is this benefit's name again? What was that benefit's name? The sixth time, is it really something that can help me? And then the seventh time, okay, how do I sign up? So again, we have to think about that for ourselves. Sometimes we hear something, we don't recognize what it is right away. We have to hear about it multiple times. And the 10th best practice, this is also a really important one. Train leadership and managers. This is essentially where it all starts. Again, we need leaders who lead with empathy, who share, and who become more curious. You may not be able to implement every benefit, policy, or service we have talked about today, but training leadership and managers is one thing that doesn't really cost any money. Start with just working on the atmosphere so that caregiving employees feel free to use the benefits they already have allotted to them. They understand those benefits and how to access them, and they feel safe to share their caregiving journey and needs with their manager. AgeWell's program, Eldercare Coach, is happy to help you in evaluating these 10 best practices to ensure you are doing all you can to support the health and wellness of your caregiving employees' work-life balance. Next, I want to tell you more about Eldercare Coach, but before we do that, just again to kind of share, if you don't mind adding to the chat the answer to this question: to what degree is your organization caregiver friendly? And so you're going to add, if we're already caregiver friendly with many of these best practices. You're going to add somewhat, we're somewhat caregiver friendly, but could do more. So I think there's just 2 options. We're already or we're somewhat, and I think I might have deleted my last option. So if you feel like you all are not caregiver, you're not really there yet, you can add something to that effect. But just wanting to know, to what degree do you think your organization is caregiver friendly? Okay. As I mentioned, one of AgeWell's key roles is observing unmet needs of caregivers and older adults in the community. And several years ago, we recognized there was a lack of support of for family caregivers, both in the workplace and in the community. AgeWell's research in recent years has included focus groups with caregiving employees and surveys with employers. And here's what we learned about what caregiving employees need and want. So employees said their needs are they need trusted information. They need expert guidance to navigate options and understand medical and legal issues and decisions. They need emotional support to help with stress and reduce feelings of isolation. And they need a caregiver friendly workplace. So, those four things. Employers said we need guidance on being a caregiver friendly workplace. We need access for employees to information, referrals, and consultations. We need online tools, trainings, and links to resources, and we need printed materials and on site education. And so now I'd like to tell you about a low cost turnkey solution perk benefit that AgeWell has created called Eldercare Coach. As a nonprofit that supports older adults and their families and has a mission to address unmet needs, we saw a need to improve support for family caregivers. The three core components which provide trusted information, expert guidance, and emotional support, all things that caregivers say they need. The first one are our Elder Care Coach phone consultations with a geriatric care professional. Our licensed master's level social worker, our Elder Care Coach, provides trusted, personalized information and care navigation. Our online portal, eldercarecoach.org, includes easy to navigate decision support tools, educational videos, and links to helpful resources. And then lastly, our customized education series utilizes local experts and is tailored to meet the needs of family caregivers. Some of the topics that we present are navigating elder care, caregiving, Alzheimer's and dementia, brain health, caregiver stress, and scams to be aware of. Elder Care Coach is able to partner with your employee resource group and your EAP and any other benefits to help drive utilization and help navigate caregiving challenges more effectively. And I do want to share with you real quick a video of Rosemary sharing how she utilized Elder Care Coach. Let me make sure my sound is on. Just one second. There we go. Awesome. Okay, here we go.
So, my name is Rosemary Brunton, and I was a caregiver for my father. And I had a unique situation where we lived about 4 hours apart in different states. He became bedridden, and there were specific challenges where he did not want to seek care in a facility, or he just wanted to be home. As a caregiver and also a full-time worker in the workforce and a mother, it became extremely stressful. I first learned about Elder Care Coach through actually my work, and I quickly learned that it would just be a landing space for me to understand if I'm on the right track, if I'm utilizing all the tools available in my tool belt. And to be honest with you, it almost acted as a mental health space for myself. Like, okay, there are no checklists for everyone in caregiving. Each individual is different. For me, I'm doing everything that I can. So my call to Elder Care Coach provided me with resources that I didn't even realize that were out there. Services to help manage his health care, eating and nutritional services, to the legal services that were provided, through a list of information that helped me navigate the woods of caregiving and being able to provide the best care I could for my father when he really needed me.
Okay, so I did want to dive in a little bit closer to let you see what happens on a coaching call. And just to clarify, Elder Care Coach is for caregivers in crisis. It's for people approaching the role of caregiving and wanting to know what they don't know. And honestly, it's for everyone in between. Topics that caregivers might discuss on a coaching call, they might talk about safety, a change in the level of care needs of their loved one, housing, help at home, how to stop driving, education about dementia, legal and financial matters, caregiver stress, and the list goes on. And you can see on the screen Just briefly, what happens on a call, the caregiver schedules the call themselves for whenever it's convenient for them. They then share, when the coach calls them, they share their unique situation. It's a confidential phone call, one-on-one. The coach listens, provides feedback, and connects the caregiver with appropriate resources, support, and education, and really helps them form an action plan for going forward. A couple quotes you can see on the screen from those that have utilized Eldercare Coach. It was so helpful to hear from a professional that I'm caring for my mother well. Thank you for your help with my sibling conflict. So we can talk about all sorts of things on that call, including, conflict with siblings. Sometimes we all are approaching caregiving differently. Another caller said, "Thank you for the time you took to listen to me, and it was a pleasure speaking with you. I appreciate you taking the extra time to ask about my wellness as well. You were an excellent listener." One of the tools that you can access at eldercarecoach.org is an assessment called Rubric. The assessment is titled, "Is it time to get help?" And this is just one of the tools that caregiving employees could access. This assessment takes about 5 minutes. It asks the caregiver questions based on their loved one's safety and quality of life needs, and it populates what it calls a care fit report. It basically says, based on what you said, this is probably the appropriate level of care for your loved one. And it could be your loved one sounds like they're doing great at home alone, or maybe they are needing some help in the home, or maybe they're ready for memory care. So it kind of gives you a starting place. One of the resources I haven't mentioned yet is at AgeWell is our directory of services. This is a resource guide. It is 16 chapters of almost any resource that an older adult caregiver or professional serving those groups might need. It is vetted information. It's free at every public library in the 13 counties that we serve around Davidson County, and it's also online as well. And there's just a quick view of all the different chapters, kind of a one-stop shop for older adults and caregivers. When we have elder care coaching phone calls with caregivers, we're helping them connect with resources. This is just a brief list of some of the resources we might refer caregivers to. I do want to touch briefly on, I think it's the fifth one down. This is just an example of help that is out there that not everyone is going to know about. The Tennessee Caregiver Coalition is a nonprofit that provides respite funds. Respite just means a time of rest to caregivers, and it's to caregivers across the lifespan. So it could be a caregiver of an older adult. They will provide a stipend of money to help the caregiver pay for help in the home, or maybe an adult day program so that they can get a break. But it also helps, they also help caregivers of, let's say, a parent of a child with a developmental difference. And maybe that parent's really needing some time to themselves. They can reach out to Tennessee Caregiver Coalition as well to get help financially to get respite. So just again, an example of the different resources that we're going to go through when we talk with a caregiver. So I just wanted to kind of sum up again a little bit about Elder Care Coach. It is a low-cost turnkey benefit. We do work with employers to find the best way to put a package together for them, whether it's a per employee per month kind of package or a bundle package. But it really does show the caregiving employee that they are a priority. It should, we hope, the goal is to reduce their stress and feeling isolated, that it will increase their productivity at work, that they're going to get professional expert guidance for their journey as a caregiver. And we also hope that it will help them utilize other benefits that they already have, and it will reduce employee distraction and absenteeism. I also want to mention that as a partner in the employers we work with, we do provide communication templates to help you get the word out, because we know how important it is to communicate the benefit to your caregiving employees. And lastly, I wanted to share with you additional ways employers can think about funding a caregiving employee benefit if they're not looking at funding it as a traditional benefit. Some employers we've worked with have looked at funding it through health insurance wellness kickbacks. through an employee engagement fund. And I would ask you to consider adding something like Elder Care Coach as a perk benefit for your caregiving employees. It's something that will last. I do think, things like ping pong tables and break rooms are really fun, but we know that something like Elder Care Coach can really support all employees. And if they don't need it today, they probably are going to need it soon. And just a couple little stats I wanted to share with you. That first one is from Home Thrive. They are a group that supports caregiving employees. And it says overall, 54% of surveyed working caregivers said they would change jobs if it meant having access to a family caregiving coordination benefit. And then some studies show returns of $2 to $4 for every dollar spent on caregiving support due to improved retention and productivity. So I thought that was important to share. So to conclude, thank you for attending this webinar. I am going to, I think, have a little bit of time for questions, so hold on if you can. I hope you are leaving today's presentation understanding more about who caregivers are, what they are juggling, and how you can help support them in the workplace, which also helps you as the employer. We believe this is something you can't afford not to do. Whether it's Elder Care Coach or another benefit provider, please continue to explore the options for supporting your caregiving employees. AgeWell welcomes the opportunity to talk with you more about Elder Care Coach and how we can help you care for your caregiving employees. We are also happy to attend benefits or health fairs for your employees. With so many resources and community agencies to consider, caregivers really need and want personalized, local expert guidance to determine their best fit options. And that's where Elder Care Coach really helps. So thank you so much. I'm happy to take questions. I will also mention I will be at the benefits fair or benefits conference, I'm sorry, next week. I will have a breakout session that's also similar to the information you heard today. So if you're there, please stop by and visit. I'd be happy to talk more with you and give you some hands-on information about Elder Care Coach. So with that, I will quit sharing, and then I think we have a few minutes if there are any questions, and I'll let MT Sherm kind of facilitate how we want to go about that. Delaney, I think you might be on mute. I can also take a look at the chat to see if there are any
Yeah.
questions. Okay.
Yeah, if y'all have any questions, now's the perfect time. Feel free to enter them in the chat, or I believe that you would have the opportunity now to come off mute. If you want to just say a few words or ask any questions, just let us know.
I do want to mention too, and I'll put this in the chat, you can visit our website at agewelltn.org. And we also have eldercarecoach.org. You can get to both of those websites together. Just remember, AgeWell is the nonprofit, Elder Care Coach is a program that we have. I'll put those in the chat.
Awesome. Thanks, Tiffany.
Yeah.
All right, well, we can give it a few more seconds if y'all have any questions. If not, thank you so much, Tiffany. I feel like we all learned so much, and I'm really grateful for you coming on and speaking today. And like she said, she will be at the Benefits Conference on May 5th, May 7th. And so, yeah, so please stay tuned, and thanks again.
Hey, Tiffany, a fellow
Yes.
Tiffany out here. Just
Oh,
wanted to
yes.
say thank you. I know how hard it is to put on a presentation and open it up for questions, and nobody has any great presentation. Um,
Thank you.
Definitely, as I begin my career or move into the HR world, the CE credit was super helpful, but where I'm at in life, also very, very helpful topic. So I appreciate it, and I just thought you should know that.
Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing that. All right. Thank you all so much. Feel free, my email's in the chat as well as our websites, and I look forward to meeting anybody next week. Thanks again.
Thanks all. Have a good day.